Many fascinating things about her, where she only started her...
So bringing such a monumental Sally Gabori work to Auckland Art Fair wasn't particularly easy. It's a large 3 meters by 2 meters painting. But we finally got it here, and the wonderful guys at John Leach Framing did a tray frame for it. And when we said it was a 3 meter long painting, they had a look and they said, gosh, it's going to take us 3 or 4 days. And it did. It took 2 of them 3 or 4 days to tray frame it. But what a difference it made to the painting. It really made it pop off the wall. Because what was going through my head at the time was I thought, well, if I'm going to bring a significant painting to the art fair, I'm going to make it a monumental one. I'm going to make it a real ripper. And the one I decided to bring, which is behind me now, was Gabori Country from 2009. It's a work I never thought we'd see in New Zealand, let alone be given permission by Alcaston Gallery and the estate of Sally Gabori to show it to a New Zealand audience. So it was a huge thrill when we unveiled it at the art fair. Art fairs, for me, aren't so much opportunities to sell, they're more opportunities to share. And this is a perfect example of that. It's such a rich and warm and joyful work of the landscape of Bentinck Island. And you could see people having an almost instantaneous reaction to it at the art fair. And that's something you see a lot in the work of Sally Gabori, this instantaneous joy when people connect to the work. They feel something about the work. It is it's paintings that genuinely speak to people, and that to me is what art is about at the moment. Justin Patton, the head curator of international art at the Art Gallery in New South Wales, said that wonderful thing when he saw the painting, and he said he felt the colours just radiated heat all the way up Queen Street in Auckland. And I thought that was a wonderful expression of how that painting moved people.
Original ceremonies can be scrubbed on the skin. That is what you're looking at here.
Well, I suppose I first met Scott because he acquired a beautiful Sally Gabori that I would call, once again, a bit like the work on the stand. It was a very strong work. It was a tough work. It was a work that I absolutely adored. And when he bought it, I knew I had to meet him because, you know, that's the sort of person who I know I would get along with. So I think building a relationship with Scott, the family are very aware of the Vivian, and I think that it's a really a match made in heaven. I think if Sally Gabori was here, they'd get on like a house on fire, which is really good.
Beverly Knight, of course, is instrumental in Sally Gabori's career, and she's been very, very supportive of the Vivian and what we're trying to do here in New Zealand. She has enormous experience working with Aboriginal communities and with Aboriginal artists to share the stories behind the work. And we were really thrilled when not only did she agree to help us get this work to New Zealand, that she said she would also come with it, come to the art fair and tell a bit of her story as well over her relationship with Sally Gabori over the years.
You know, my gallery started in 1989 and I had a big interest in Aboriginal art for 10 years prior to that. So I did work with the Mornington Island Art Centre, but they were men and using ochres, not acrylics. Sally was living in what they used to call the aged care facility, and they wanted to give her some occupational therapy, so they took it to the art centre and gave her some acrylics and a bit of canvas. they rang me and said, is this really bad or is this, what do you think? And I caught a plane the next day. I thought it was very raw. In fact, it was very rough. But I knew that here was someone who had a different view of the world. And you say that because the people the Ladal people who she was working with, it's a different language group, she just was doing her own thing. This was coming from the mind's eye. So that was the start of it for me.
One of the more profound things about Aboriginal art, and Sally Gabori's art in particular, is it has this ability to speak to us. Sally Gabori didn't speak any English. She spoke a very rare language called Kayardild, which is spoken by the Kayardild people. And yet, as paintings, and the language of that painting speaks directly to people. And I love that about art. I love the fact that art can play a role in us learning about someone else's life and seeing life through someone else's eyes. I think that's a beautiful part of the human experience and a fundamental reason why art should be important to every single person on this planet.
It's from Benting Island. They are all ingrained in her memory. So although she painted...
Mrs. Gabori painted from memory, from mind. What she saw was already on her mind. It had been on her mother's mind, her grandmother's mind, her great-grandmother's mind. Like her people untouched for 50, 60, 70,000 years, who knows, you know? So it's quite extraordinary.
The story of Sally Gabori is a story that deserves to be told, because the more you know about her life and her work and how those two things intersect, the more magical that story becomes. It's something that we are really keen to explore and find new ways to bring to life.